Good day and welcome to SCO BRICS Insight, where we look at what's really going on in the world of the BRICS. Now, just when you thought that the US had not run out of ideas for sanctions, they do surprise you with sanctions that are more of a nasty irritant or an insect bite rather than a game-changing event for the Russian economy. The introduction of new US sanctions on trading the dollar and the euro on the Moscow Stock Exchange did actually cause a huge level of panic either among the general public, businesses, or actually actual brokers. Plus, the announcement of sanctions on Russia Day holiday of 12th of June, coupled with the central bank's subsequent statement of reassurance, stopped any level of panic. Do remember that Russia Day holiday is the one where the 197 different indigenous ethnic groups celebrate what unites them, binds them together and makes Russia a great country for them to live in, and a culture based on the family, faith and its patriotism. Now, because of one of the recent US sanctions, the Moscow Exchange has announced that it will cease trading in the dollar and the euro. Now, will this matter? Well, Russian businesses have had to adapt so many times to Western sanctions policy, they've learned how to minimize the inconvenience of the US's futile attempts to restrict Russia's foreign trade. So what changes can we expect to see in the foreign exchange market in Russia? Now, what can we see in the changes in the rules of the game? Well, in terms of the Moscow Exchange, trading in other financial instruments will continue, and that includes the yuan and precious metals and obviously the stocks and shares. And the only currency pairs affected are those that are traded with the euro and the US dollar. Now, in response to this news, the Moscow Exchange did actually experience a decline in the morning, but the market participants were able to mitigate the impact by purchasing up most of the fall once they realized it was just a blip. The prices of the majority of blue chip stocks on the Moscow Exchange declined by about 2.5%, which is modest in the context of what is allegedly a major situation. The shares of the exchange itself actually went down by almost 16% as the panic set in, but then they recovered. By the end of the day, they were only down by about 5%. One of the advantages of the sanctions announcement being on the non-working day, the Russia Day holiday, the central bank was able to release several important statements before the start of trading, which was reassuring to investors. Now, how will the transactions with the dollar and the euro proceed now? Well, the Bank of Russia has announced that transactions with the dollar and euro will continue to take place, but mainly in the over-the-counter market, which is where the majority of trades in Western countries actually takes place. The exchange rate will now be determined by the central bank based on statements and information on transactions received from the digital platforms of the over-the-counter trading market, and that will be fixed at 15:30 Moscow time each day. So they're just going to fix it. So this calculation is likely to be consistent with the calculation of rates throughout the Moscow Exchange. Plus, the regulator is stating that the over-the-counter foreign exchange market already accounts for more than half of the current foreign exchange trading. In May, for example, this figure was more than 65% of all trade. This indicates that the volume of buying and selling a currency on the exchange market was actually lower out on the exchange than actually took place outside it. Secondly, the regulator had actually prepared in advance for this US attack and worked out how to deal with such a scenario. The fact that the US may try and ban trading in the US dollar and the euro on the Moscow Exchange was known over a year ago. That is, they knew the chances of this happening were like. The calculations of exchange rates in the event of the absence of actual foreign exchange trading on the Moscow Exchange were previously carried out by the central bank. The average deviation between January the 1st, 2023 and June the 11th, 2024 for the US dollar was 0.01% and the euro 0.03%. So, the central bank has confirmed that the over-the-counter market representative determined the exchange of the currency isn't actually going to be a problem. And, everything will work as it should do. And despite the ban, Russians will still be able to buy and sell dollars and euros through the banks. It's all the funds in their accounts and deposits of the citizens and the companies are safe according to the regulator. There's no problems there. I mean, there's no restrictions on the use and buying and selling of the dollar outside the Moscow exchange. I mean, you can still do it. I mean, some banks were actually quite interesting. I mean, they did establish really protective currency rates with huge spreads between the buying and selling. I mean, for example, one spread between the dollars was sell at 140 and buy at 40, which only an idiot would actually start playing. You have to be desperate to go for that one. Others introduced limits on the currency exchange, and others just completely shut the windows for currency exchange. However, the central bank and economists are taking steps to reassure the market, which does have a tendency to panic, that there is actually no need for that. I mean, these are actually cosmetic restrictions, and regarding the Moscow exchange and the National Clearing Centre. I mean, everybody should have predicted this happening, and it was only a matter of time. So the central bank, knowing it was coming, took measures that they needed to do to mitigate the consequences of this yet another futile action by the demented West. After all, the West might be dumb, but it's predictably dumb. However, like anything, changes in the rules of the game require time to adapt, and the new rules will no doubt cause an increase in cost, particularly in the case of currency transactions. The new reality, as is always the case, there'll be winners and losers. There'll be an increase in commissions and trading spreads between the buying and selling. The role of peripheral countries in trading operations will also increase. I mean, more yuan, more other countries, United Arab Real and rupees, etc. But these supply channels have already been established. With regard to the exchange rate, I mean, the central bank will implement measures to make sure that the exchange rate stays within the sort of range of 10 to 15% of its current average. I mean, what they are doing is they're going to forecast what's going to happen with the ruble going forward, and they've been pretty good at that. I mean, they've forecast the ruble corridor for foreign exchange going back for the last 2 years, and I'm sure that they'll be able to manage the currency without a problem. I mean, on average, until the end of the year, the consensus forecast is the dollar's actually going to fluctuate around the level of 89 to 92, and the euro between 95 and 99, which is pretty much what it's done for the last 6 months. It's also expected that the ruble exchange rate will fluctuate a bit more given the new sanctions and the instability that this has had, but it's not going to be major. Also, it will fluctuate against certain other currencies, while they will probably gain against the ruble while depreciating against other currencies, but we'll see. It'll all settle down. I mean, things always stabilise as it becomes more transparent and everybody can see what's actually really happening. I mean, if the volume of trading goes to the unregulated over-the-counter market, it's going to be a lot less transparency of transactions. Spreads will widen, commissions will increase, and liquidity will be, I don't say deteriorate, but it might. But that's the norm in most markets. I mean, it might have a negative impact on exporters, imports, and, people wanting to buy dollars in the general population. But the central bank will continue to work the situation. I don't think anything dramatic is actually going to affect the Russian economy. I mean, the restrictions will probably have a greater impact on importers than exporters. I mean, Russia will not have any difficulties with exports. It's a seller's market. And if you demand rubles for your much-needed gas, you get rubles. Okay, they exchange their dollars and euros for rubles, but you're still getting what you want. In this situation, this contributes to the further de-dollarization of the Russian economy, and it benefits the economies of the BRICS countries as a whole. Exporters receive their foreign exchange primarily in yuan, and the requirement to sell foreign exchange yuan has really been strictly enforced, particularly for the Chinese currency than for dollars and euros. Also, a significant number of exporters sell their products abroad with payments in rubles, as I mentioned, so mean, approximately 80% of export payments in Russia, payments for exports, are made in rubles. So the national currencies of friendly places like are actually paying in rubles for all the stuff that they're getting. I mean, the situation with imports is a bit more complex, but not as critical. I mean, the majority of payments made by Russian importers are in foreign currencies, with about 50% of importers, according to media surveys, stating that they work mostly in dollars and euros. Well, that's unlikely to change, but there'll be no shortage as usual with imported goods, as the importers will just switch to the yuan and other forms of payment, such as cryptocurrencies. Also, they'll likely have to settle with different counterparties in different countries, and that's what they've been doing for years. Now, as a last resort, they will purchase dollars and euros in the over-the-counter market or on foreign exchanges through cross trades. I mean, for example, they could actually publish yuan for rubles on the Moscow exchange or currencies of other friendly countries, and exchange them for dollars or euros on the over-the-counter market. I mean, as a result, importers will have to pay an additional commission. However, these costs will not be significant enough to necessitate a significant increase in prices, which could fuel inflation. So it's inevitable that despite the central bank's action, these restrictions are going to have a temporary impact. But you can anticipate the challenges in the currency conversion process. I think it's been going on for a while. Particularly the sale of currency through the over-the-counter market, which is a bit more complex when you're trying to play games with it, I mean, there's also the possibility that delivery times and channels of trade are going to be needed to be modified due to this. But other than that, I don't see anything really changing, as most Russian domestic companies have adapted to the Western sanctions policy. And Russian businesses have developed completely now for making decisions that minimize the impact of restrictions on their trade. It's going to take some time for businesses and the population to adapt to the new realities. But currently, there's no issues with the buying and selling of dollars and euros in the over-counter market. I mean, you can still go into a bank and buy dollars. I mean, I just did it the other day. I mean, as usual, Russia just gets on with it and gets around all the sanctions and its vassals imposed. Anyway, there you have it. As the US continues to make sure that the de-dollarization of the world continues at a serious pace, Russia just gets on. Anyway, thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe. If you've enjoyed this video, you can help me fund the channel and the website at SCOBRICSInsight.com by clicking on the thanks button at the bottom of the screen. Thank you. Take care.